Hello, welcome to episode 402 of the Sunday New York Times Read Along. Yes, 402 episodes of reviewing the Sunday New York Times print edition. My name is Neil Parekh. Srinivasan and I have been producing the show and co-hosting, and we're glad to have you with us. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things that you do to make sure that people find today's show. We have several interesting topics that we're going to be talking about. First and foremost, it's Spain versus Argentina in the World Cup. We'll be looking to hear what your predictions are, who you think will win. We'll also talk about the latest on Iran and all the wildfire smoke coming from our friends to the north, Canada, and how it's been affecting air quality for millions of people. We'll also be looking at some articles in the New York Times around ICE and immigration enforcement. So settle in, grab your cup of coffee, or if you're listening to us on replay, thank you for coming back and watching the show at a time that works for you. We know that 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time is not everybody's cup of tea, but we're glad that you took the time to come back and join us. We have had some incredible shows over the last few weeks. Of course, we did take last week off. Sri did a Instagram live version of the show, which I was able to tune into briefly before taking my daughter to camp. But over the last few weeks, in particular, I want to go back to episode 400, which was a landmark show. We had Tom Jolly, Wayne Camadoy, and Mike Connors join us from the New York Times, and Paula Kiger, our longtime producer, joined us as a special co-host for that episode. You can find that and all of the other episodes in our archives. I want to thank Muck and Graphic History Company for their support of the New York Times Read Along. Thank you so much for helping us do what we do. And of course, the show is produced by Digimentors, the social and digital consulting company that Sri started with his friend Andrew Lee several years ago. I'm proud to be a vice president of events and communications for Digimentors. We do digital marketing, events, and programs like this one. We help with strategic communications, trainings, and workshops. We also help companies and nonprofits with staffing and recruiting. And of course, over the last 2 years, we've done a lot of work around AI, and Sri has done several AI workshops for various clients. So we look forward to telling you more about that. And now we will bring in our co-host, Srinivasan. Sri, good to see you.
Good to see you, Neil. So happy to be with you. We missed you last week, but you were kind of there. I kept saying to everybody, the way I do it on Instagram is not the professional, polished show that we're seeing now. And so I encouraged everybody to come back, but it was nice to see that audience as well. Folks, it's 8:30 a.m. in New York, and that means we do this on Sundays. We've been doing it for 10 plus years, 275 guests, and 400 episodes. It's really hard to believe, Neil. I shared your sentiment when you said you said the number out loud, 402. 402 episodes. It's really
sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, and so we want to start by showing you the view from my window so you can see that today's air quality is actually not so bad. In fact, it's pretty darn good. And looking online, I see that today's numbers, the air quality number is 55, which says moderate, but during the last few days, it went as high as 230. So I'll definitely take this over everything else that the number might be. So I'm glad to see this, but I worry for everyone else who is dealing with this. I know the air moved down south towards where you normally are. You're on Long Island today, but normally you're much further south. So What are you hearing about this, Neil?
Well, in particular, I know that the air quality, and this I got from my nephew, Sanjay, who I share a birthday with. He's a big soccer fan. And I was surprised that the soccer game in Chicago, an MLS game, was canceled. I think it was yesterday or day before. And I was really just wondering what would have happened if the air quality was worse here in the New York, New Jersey area. I know that I think the Spanish team had to move their practice indoors. But what if it was so bad they had to postpone or cancel the world? Like, what would they have done with the finals at the New York, New Jersey Stadium, as they're calling it for the World Cup?
Yeah, just as people look out my window, that's the UN building. You see there it's an unfamiliar view because you normally see it with on the broad side where you can see all those green windows. Strangely, it was built with no windows on these two sides of it, the narrow side. It's just shocking that you would build a building like that. It just makes no sense. But that's what that's what architecture and architects can be, like, quirky and idiosyncratic in some way that you may not even know you want or can appreciate. Years later, we have people tuning in. Let's say hi to Ken Fisher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Welcome, Ken. And Deb Kerr is watching from Asheville, North Carolina. Clear skies here with afternoon showers and a beautiful view of what you were looking at was the East River. I'll do that one more time. There's the East River you see there, and Roosevelt Island. Most people who haven't been to New York in decades or years may not know that the end of Roosevelt Island now has something called Four Freedoms Park, named after the Four Freedoms speech of Roosevelt. And also in the distance on Roosevelt Island is now Cornell Tech. So Cornell University, which has an upstate campus famously in Ithaca, now has a campus in Manhattan, or at least in New York City on Roosevelt Island. And so that's also where the famous tram that many of you have seen in movies and things like that, and the Pepsi Cola sign, which is also famous, is on Long Island City, which is over on the other side there. You see and then far in the distance is the rest of Queens, Astoria, etc. So welcome. I see that we have the Parekh family in full force. Amy is watching. Greetings from Fort Lee, New Jersey. Usually she's up at 5:30 in the morning watching from Washington State. So we're happy to have you. And here's Sudha, Auntie. Auntie, great to speak to you yesterday. And Neil, you are, I believe, together, so you don't have to. You don't owe her a call as you usually do.
I spent time with her. I've been in New York, New Jersey, as you mentioned, Sri, for the last few days. So we were together yesterday, and I think it was came up on Thursday. And my sister is here in Fort Lee. I had mentioned right before, depending on when they joined, I was talking about Sanjay giving me the update. Sanjay is Amy's son, my nephew, who we share a birthday. He was telling me about how a soccer game in Chicago had been canceled because of the wildfire smoke. So I'm actually going to be going after the show a little bit later. I'll be going back to Fort Lee to watch the finals with him. So that'll be a lot of fun. Spain versus Argentina. So I know he's rooting for Spain. Sri, what are you thinking for the World Cup?
So 4 years ago, I was desperately wanting Argentina to win because I wanted Messi to have a World Cup and for him to put to rest the rivalry with Ronaldo from Portugal, and that came to fruition. So I'm happy for Messi, but this year I'm cheering for anybody but Argentina, and I wanted France to win, and then France not only didn't make it to the finals, had a terrible showing yesterday, as if they didn't want to play. Mbappe did get
2
couple
goals.
more goals. Yeah, 2 more goals. So he now leads Messi. So Messi has to make 2 more goals this today if he wants to win the Golden Boot, which is the man of the tournament
Ballon
prize.
d'Or,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the equivalent of that. Yes. So that's happening. You are watching in New Jersey, but you're not in MetLife Stadium. If you have $10,000 or so, you can still go get a
No,
ticket, Neil,
I'm
and take a look.
I'm in Long Island today, and I'm actually wondering about how early I need to leave to not get stuck in crosstown traffic getting to even to Fort Lee. It'll be pretty challenging, but I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I believe it. Debbie is watching, cooling off today, only 80 degrees today, so that's good in the 80s. And Mary C. Curtis, friend of the show, been on the guest many times. She is watching from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for being here. Ron Thomas is watching from Dubai. Ron was here in New Jersey. He lives in Dubai but travels all over. And we are hoping that he and everyone else in the entire war zone there is safe, because you're seeing the news coming out of the area is very, very worrisome. Naomi, former Manhattanite, says unbreathable air in Rhode Island Wednesday, dangerous for all, but don't blame Canada. That's really interesting because Neil said something about Canada, and the instinct is to say it's from Canadian wildfires. And we remember during the entire COVID how Trump would use the word, that it's from China, is a China virus, as a almost like a slur to anger people and distract from the problems in the US. So I can see why you want to be careful what you call these things, but it is true that this is from the Canadian wildfires are what are causing
I
this.
was
Synchronized here.
I was going to say, Sri, this is where I'm getting my information from. The New York Times: wildfire smoke from Canada turns the air hazardous for millions. So if there's a different source for that, please let us know, Naomi. I've got the
Oh, no, I
receipts.
don't think she's objecting to saying where the source is. She's saying, but just don't blame Canada for it. And when we say it's from there, you're blaming Canada, but it's also, there's the reality that it is Canada that it's
Yeah.
coming from. So that in America, we have a lot of forest fires, and by the way, a lot of Canadians volunteer and come down to fight fires in
Oh,
America,
always.
even during the tariff war. And Trump's response to the Canadian wildfires is, "We're going to add tariffs," as if this is something that they can control.
Yes. Yes.
So that's so irritating. Deb says we watched most of the game on TV, but the best play yesterday was with England versus France. And Sujana said, "Good morning, Viva España." But what an amazing second half yesterday. That's right. The game is on the ESPN. They were calling it the best match of the tournament because it was something like 3-0 at halftime, and then it ended up 6-4. And and Deborah says, it's not like Canada can reverse the air currents. And Ellen says, hi from the Upper East Side. And Long Island traffic is a nightmare always. 2-lane roads, lived there for 20 years. Husband commuted to the New York Times. Horrible. Leave super early, Neil. So
It's
that's good advice.
the largest parking lot in the world, the Long Island Expressway.
And there's a famous line from Seinfeld where they're trying to get to JFK Airport when you have to go to the Van Wyck Expressway, and they say nobody beats the Van Wyck. You cannot do it. Irish Stew Podcast says not only is today the World Cup final and the final day of the British Open, over 80,000 will be in Dublin's Croke Park for the All Ireland hurling final. So this is a major Irish sport, and the fact that that's all coming together today must be fun for Irish fans. And Naomi says, being slightly facetious regarding Canada, climate change is who to blame. That is correct. And we are all paying the price. And this government, instead of focusing on all of those things, is focusing on, the things that they're doing, including the way that they're conducting this war that we have seen. Ellen says, so true about the Long Island Expressway. Yuck, she says. All right, let's take a look at the papers. I love looking at the papers and sharing them with all of you. There is so much to talk about with the news. And we are going to start by looking at Saturday's paper. And it says here, the New York Times of July 18th. The lead story was Friday's Trump rehashes 2020, putting 2026 at risk, not just 2028, putting 2026 at risk. So something we need to look at. And unusual picture, a member of Cape Cod's old ladies against underwater garbage standing in Lovell's Pond in Barnstable, Massachusetts. Maybe it's pronounced Barnstable, I'm not sure, but that's old ladies against garbage. I think that's a wonderful name for an organization. Picking trash out of muck and loving it. And attacks across region escalate war with Iran. This is yesterday's headlines, but it's always good to see how they cover stories over the weekend. In Britain, King of the North finds way to 10 Downing Street. King of the North is a name used in
Game
the
of
Game of
Thrones.
Thrones, and that's what you're seeing here. So Andy Burnham, the Labor Party's new leader, on Friday, and tribute to Trump becomes the scene of a killing. A man more nuanced than decor showed outside the California home of Carrie Sharon, which neighbors called the Trump House. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the story, so I don't know what that is about, actually. I don't want to speculate. China's AI breakthrough threatens US's edge. Freely available model championed by Xi. And Neil, you know that when I was on my 5-country Asia tour this spring, I kept telling people and learned how much China is ahead of the world, and certainly in the United States, in use of AI for things that people actually want and need, rather than just the things just going after and ruining the things we love: writing, photography, illustration, music. That's what our tech bros have focused on. The Chinese government and the Chinese companies have focused on infrastructure AI and difficult, complicated problems. And some of that's happening in the US, of course, but all the publicity, the noise is around things that nobody asked for the most part. This is just looking at the front page of yesterday's paper. We'll come back to the front page of today's paper after looking at just a couple of the headlines. Charges of assaulting ICE unravel from misconduct. Nearly half of resolved cases have been dismissed, defeated, or withdrawn. That's so interesting. And this is why you cannot trust ICE about any of this stuff that they're doing. Rushing to help in Venezuela, volunteers descended on the coastal city of La Guaira after the twin earthquakes in June. And Trump enlists spy agencies in 2020 grudge. Federal push to revive voting fraud claims. Just for our international audience and people who've not been paying attention, you'll say, why is he bringing back the 6-year-old story? Because he wants to have excuses for if things go wrong in 2026 midterms in November, 4 months from now, with everything happening in the elections. If they lose, he's got an excuse. But also, don't be surprised if he makes moves to do things like martial law or other things that sound so ridiculous to even imagine. But there have been calls for things like that already by Trump supporters and Trump influencers. And that's why we are worried about this stuff. And a little bit of historical note on this: you should know that there have been, in the last 30 years or so, 100 cases of incorrect voting or fraudulent voting. 100 out of hundreds of millions of votes over 30 years, right? Maybe a billion votes over 30 years. 100 cases, and almost all of them are Republicans voting incorrectly, or on purpose, either maliciously or by accident. And that's what they're making all of this fuss about. And that's why we have to pay attention and know what is happening.
It's not just that they're making a fuss, Sri. Over the last several years, they have taken extreme steps to suppress the vote, to
Mhm.
find ways to keep people from getting to the polls, and in particular, black voters have been targeted, brown voters have been targeted with decisions around polling locations, around who's on the voter rolls, taking people off the voter rolls if they don't confirm their status after one or two letters from the government. It's a system. I mean, they're doing everything they can to stay in power. They're stacking the deck. So and they're putting the elections in question. So either way, they'll win. They'll either make sure that they get the votes, or if they don't like the results, they'll just question it.
So here is the other side, someone watching, Kevin O'Leary, I presume that's not his real name. No Trump supporters are calling for violence or martial law. That is just not true. Neil, tell them, there's a good opportunity for us to tell them about the amazing work we're doing, you're doing specifically with the folks at the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation.
Absolutely. I think that it's not, I don't think that you have to question whether or not Trump supporters are calling for violence or martial law. Let's look at history. Let's look at January 6th. It was Trump himself who called for violence. It was Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol. This is something, Sri, I feel very strongly about when people start talking about they were just tourists walking around the Capitol. My neighbor is a Capitol Hill police officer, a bike officer. I talked to him after the event. This is what Trump supporters are doing at his behest. And there's no reason to think, and they've tried it elsewhere too in other state capitals. There's no reason to think it wouldn't happen again if they don't like the results. The difference is that Trump and his supporters have the levers of power. We've seen this play before. We know how this goes through. We work very closely with the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation, and the events of the civil rights era are not that long ago. There are people who are still alive that I've met, that I've talked to, who experienced the beatings on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And in fact, just yesterday, or Friday rather, was the anniversary of Congressman John Lewis's passing. And working with the John and Lillian Miles Lewis Foundation, we posted a video of Morgan Freeman reading John Lewis's famous op-ed, his last op-ed in the New York Times, published after he passed. And you can find the video on our website, jlmlf.org, jlmlf.org. Read the op-ed, watch the video, learn the history, know that we've been here before, that this is not new territory for the right.
You're so correct, Neil. Thank you for putting that putting it so clearly for everyone to hear. We have somebody who claims that Illinois allows illegals to vote, right? So then I went into Grok, which is filled with the DNA of Elon Musk, so we know how it leans and what it how it looks at the world. But here's what it says. I said, does Illinois allow illegals to vote? No, Illinois does not allow non-citizens to vote in state or federal elections. And that's Elon Musk's Grok. So, folks, it's easy for you to check things like this. Just if you have something you've heard, some conspiracy theory, even a site like Grok may get some of it right. But always go and check the institutions that focus on journalism, that are focused on getting this information right. And that's why we do the show, not because it's only about the New York Times. We've done this with the Washington Post, with the Chicago Sun-Times, the Toronto Globe and Mail, the Khaleej Times in Dubai. And we do this because we're celebrating and putting an emphasis and celebrating news and the importance of getting facts correct, and also fighting misinformation and disinformation. Kevin, please read a newspaper somewhere in the world, and you will learn that what you've been fed on Fox News and other places is incorrect. Here is Mary C. Curtis, who's been covering these issues for decades. She says, already GOP-controlled elections board in North Carolina is pushing changes that echo Jim Crow. Because of majority Republican legislature, the Democratic governor cannot intervene. And Ellen says, women are now being targeted regarding name change after marriage because it's not on your birth certificate. So things like that are a huge problem. Deb says yes to Mary Curtis's notes. And Naomi says Trump's Looney Tunes rant exposes his mental decline to all except Republican boot kissers. Shame on them allowing the lunatic running the asylum. And there are so many other comments coming through here. We won't be able to read all of them. Here's Doug Levy. It's so strange that they insist that Trump won in 2020, but they don't question any other elections if one of their people won. Exactly. So many people, in the 2020 race, Trump did not win, but senators won, Republican congressmen won. Why don't you question those ballots? Only the presidential. It's all on one. It's all on one ballot. So why only check some of those?
I do want to engage in one comment, Sri, because one of the things that we talk about on this show is first of all the importance of dialogue, the importance of engaging with comments that we don't like, opinions that we don't agree with. When we see comments that are just ad hominem attacks or just rants, we don't honor them. We don't put them on screen. We don't respond. But some of the things we do need to engage with. Kevin, I'm glad that you're watching. I'm glad that you're staying with the show. You have a different opinion, and that's great. But as I said, we want to address some of the things that people are saying. Kevin is talking about Illinois allows illegals to be police officers, and that Dick Durbin, senator from Illinois, longtime senator, argued for it on the floor of the Senate. 2 points I want to make. One, no one is illegal. Just flat. No one is illegal. If you want to argue that they don't have documentation to be in the States, that's a different story. Undocumented immigrants, sure, that is a group of people that are out there. But no one is illegal. If you want to talk about the history of immigration in this country, most people came to this country undocumented. They were allowed into the country, but they didn't necessarily have documents when they came to Ellis Island. They went through a screening process, and most people were actually kept out, but no one had documents when they came here. Second, okay, so if someone's undocumented and they're a police officer, they love this country just as much as anyone else, and they're putting their life on the line every day to make sure people are safe. I would rather have someone like that serving as a police officer than any of the other people that we're talking about who are attacking police officers at the Capitol on January 6th. So I just want to make that point about police officers, Sri.
Oh, thank you. That's a good point and important for us to know. Let's see who's watching. Arlene is watching. Good morning, Arlene. Paula is watching from Dallas. Great to have you here with us, Paula. Here's another thing that, just to be clear, like it says, it's funny. There's one conservative media outlet and everyone on the left says you're brainwashed if you listen to it or read to it. So America since 1776, welcome. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Even hate watching the show is watching, so we appreciate that. But let me make a point here. There isn't just one conservative media outlet and everything else is liberal. That is just not true. And now there are so many channels that are powered by the right, including One America News, Newsmax, and other stations that have so much power over the media attention that America gives it, that it's very easy to lose track of what's real and what's not, because they lie so often on those channels. And that's why we want you to read news that you can trust. Your local newspaper is what we want you to trust. Now, one of the things she or he is right about is that newspapers and news outlets across the world have said how the World Cup was going to be problematic because of the way FIFA and Trump had gotten together and made it as difficult for outsiders, to foreign visitors, and made it hard for the Iranian team. They have to come, play, and then go home go to their home hotel in Mexico and then come back in the morning. These are all crazy things that only this could happen here. And we, including me, thought there would be these issues, but to the credit of everyone involved, including, of all people, Andrew Giuliani is the soccer czar for the Trump administration. It's been a wonderful wonderful tournament, and we're so happy that that's the case. And the point to be made here is that this is something that shouldn't surprise us, because the way that we have been looking at the world is part of the problem. And we did this in my newsletter just a couple of weeks ago, the World Cup, Americans and America. It turns out that America has a lot of problems, but Americans of all political stripes came together and were welcoming to in this country. And that was so nice that the tournament has gone so well. I couldn't be more pleased with that. And this is my moment to make a plug for our newsletter. It's Sri's Sunday Note. You can get it at srinet.substack.com, srinet.substack.com. We have, because we have all these paid subscribers now, thank you. It's the main content will always be free, but we do extra stuff for our paid subscribers, including a new salon series we've launched. It's called X Teaches Sri About Why. And this was Andy Rich, a master sales trainer, teaching me about how to sell ideas, services, products, and more. And that's this new series. You will always get the feature on this a couple of days later if you don't pay, but you'll still get it. And then this Sunday, we're going to do my conversation with Bobby Ghosh, who you see on CNN, MSNBC, MS Now all the time. And he teaches me about the World Cup and the beautiful game. And he also started by saying how well this has all gone. So hope you will subscribe, srinet.substack.com. We are so grateful to everyone who reads it, whether they pay or not, and everyone who sponsors it and participates, just like this show as well. These are all labors of love we do on Sunday mornings. Neil does this show with me, and then I write the newsletter. So thank you, everybody, for supporting us. It means the world that you're here. This is the Sunday. This is our Sunday New York Times read along, and we are live Sundays 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We want to also tell you we are now available as a podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Just search for the New York Times Read Along and you will see us. Let's see who else is here. There's the Spotify podcast. And one thing you can do is to follow and rate us. That will help us. So please do that, even if you love the video version. And by the way, you get video as well as audio on there. So you can check that for sure. And Chitachi is watching. Good morning from Fort Lauderdale. And Chitachi was on our show in person in Miami the day before the Trump administration came into power. And I feel like it was a different time. Even though we knew everything that was coming, or most of everything that was coming, it still felt like a time to pause and breathe and take stock before we went hurtling into 2025. We have a lot more comments coming in, and now these are ad hominem attacks. Some racist slurs are coming in. We're not showing you any of that on there. Kevin says, I'm not attacking, I'm just stating. And often when people say that, they are attacking. And it says here, look at this. I mean, again, the Trump administration promised us that they would go after, the Trump candidacy promised us this, for term 2, they'd go after the worst of the worst, the criminals, the rapists. Nobody has any objection to you as the administration going after those people. They should. Criminals should be gone after. But all illegal immigrants are criminals. They are terrorists. Just imagine saying that about some of the grandmothers that have been picked up, some of the young children that have been picked up. This is just pure hate and a chance to make the lives of immigrants who have been in this country and working, almost all of them working, many of them paying taxes, but not getting anything back. And that's what's so sad about all of this, Neil.
Sri, I want to say a special hello to a old friend, if you will. Sonny Slaughter is watching from the DMV. That's the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. It's been forever. I'm glad to tune in for this. Sonny, we've missed you. I've missed you. We did a very well-received, very intense show with her on the 1619 project back when we could do shows in person. And Sunny, it'd be great to reconnect with you. We definitely have a lot to catch up on. And she says exactly, language matters, and that's why it's important. And it's a small thing, Sri. Even with when people talk about people who are living on the streets, I'm starting with that language first. It's not that they're that they're homeless; they're experiencing homelessness. This is a language issue. When you call someone homeless, you're defining them and saying that that is their state of being, and that's not going to change. If someone's experiencing homelessness, that is their current state. It doesn't mean they've always been homeless. It doesn't mean they always will be homeless. There's a difference in how you describe people and you talk about people, and it matters.
Thank you, Neil. We're about 25 minutes to go, and we have a lot of the paper to cover. Elio Duran is watching. Thank you for joining us. One last thing here from our friend. He says, Kevin says, I'm not hate watching. I'm trying to understand why you hate Americans so much. I am a very proud American. I am what they say, American on purpose. And I hold America to a higher standard because America holds itself to a higher standard. It has for all the decades that we have, the centuries that America has been around, 250 years, something proud that I'm very proud of. Please go and read my essay on the 250th anniversary. And you will, if you say I hate America, then you just don't know how to understand what you're reading or understand what the situation is. Okay, let's get back to the paper. Front page, Iran strike kills 2 U.S. troops. And this is, again, 2 people who have died in an unnecessary a war of choice, a war that we have won 10 times already, in a war where the Iranian military was obliterated last year. And then it's still there, and it's been obliterated this year, and it's still there. So how is that possible? A compelling distraction at the perfect time. World Cup provided an abundance of good vibes. And there's been a lot of talk about the Norwegian team and some of the other folks, the Scottish fans that have come around. And so this is a piece that's worth reading. A renaissance of startups by Americans with AI's help. Cassidy Winkler, 26, said she used AI to develop marketing for her Pilates business. And so that's on the front page of the Times. Let's look at the other sections. The Sunday business cover is, do these CEOs loathe each other? Bet on it. So who are these people who are doing the loathing? I'm going to turn this upside down. That's kind of interesting, Neil. Did you see that?
I like the cover.
Yeah, it's a card. So that's let's see who this is. The young billionaires who run Polymarket and Kalshi are intent on dominating prediction markets. It's more than a battle, it's bad blood. And these are the markets where people are betting all kinds of things. These are the markets also where we've seen multiple Trump staffers and Trump insiders make hundreds of thousands of dollars making bets.
The person handling his teleprompter, people involved in the raid on Venezuela in the military, not all the military, but an individual soldier somewhere in the chain of command. They have made a killing, literally and figuratively, using insider information.
Nike's diversity policy made it a target for a Trump ally. The administration's investigation has become a map for similar cases. Let's keep going here. Mary says people seem to forget that Fox paid nearly $1 billion for lying, and that's your trusted news source. Ron says thank you. It's so great to have everybody here. Thank you so much for watching. We do this every Sunday. We occasionally have guests, and Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar says there's a lack of basic respect is quite disturbing. Yesterday, Mikey Sherrill posted a video warning about floods and tornadoes and urging New Jersey people to stay safe. And the vitriol she got for doing her job was awful. That's the new governor of New Jersey. And people are saying hi to Sunny. Sujana is. And Sunny says, I love you all forever. I look forward to catching up. The Obama administration deported the worst of the worst by doing the hard work. The agents were well vetted and trained and didn't shoot into cars and kill people. Have you seen the background of the new ICE agents? And that's really one of the things that we have to talk about. John says, my friend self-deported, came back 2 weeks later as a citizen. So wait, are you are you happy for your friend? And I highly doubt that somebody, uh, was self-deported and then were able to come back 2 weeks later as a citizen. If you came back, you would be put on a path to citizenship. If they allow it, it'll take years. So this is one of those. My cousin has a friend who did something, and you're trying to prove that. And thank you all for being here. There's just too many comments for us to comment on, but that's good that you're watching. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Sunday Styles cover is trade schools beckon Gen Z. More students are turning from college to specialized programs. Their parents might need more convincing. And this is an interesting story because the cost of living, as people realize, we don't have 4 years to sit around and just go to school, says LaDonna Glass, who's pursuing an apprenticeship as an electrician. And these might be jobs that are AI proof to some degree, right? And so, Neil, so things like electricians, plumbers in some parts of America are being paid $300 an hour to, and just you can't even find them if you need them, Neil.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sunday opinion cover: the price of broken promises. Decades of failed democratic policies have left Latinos exposed to Trump's cruel deportation regime. There is a way out. So the Sunday opinion by Andrea Flores. And here the blame is going directly on democratic policies that have failed Latinos. So that's something we'll want to take a look at. Graham made his bet. A senator saw that Trump was malign and corrosive, then supported him anyway, right? That was the big story last weekend. He was supposed to be on the show Meet the Press, and a few hours earlier, he died. And this is a man who said very clearly that Trump will destroy America in during the campaign, and then just decided that it's better to side with him than his own friend, John McCain. Maureen Dowd has a piece called Low T and a High Chair. Where are Hexet's hormones when Trump needs them? And this is about the ridiculous idea that we need to test every American soldier, man and woman, for the amount of testosterone they have. And James Stavridis, the former NATO command supreme allied commander of NATO, was on TV yesterday saying it makes no sense. And some of the most important fighters in the American military system are drone pilots who are women and others who are not actually on the field. So this doesn't make any sense. And even testing men does not make sense. The King of the North won't save Britain. So they're now using that title in news coverage as well as in the opinion pages. They obviously like that. He won't save Britain. Britain needs saving. Andy Burnham, the seventh British Prime Minister in a decade, looks like more of the same. And Me Too isn't dead. It is the law of the land, says Gretchen Carlson, who some of you know was one of the first most high-profile victims of Roger Ailes. And she sued Roger Ailes 10 years ago. Today, it's harder to silence women. That is absolutely true. And this is a piece by Massimo Calabresi. Why is Trump pitting intelligence against democracy? The president is abusing the power to declassify the nation's secrets. So this is the opinion section. Lots of things to read here. What would you say to Donald Trump before the midterm elections? Okay, be more transparent and not reactionary. Keep doing what you're doing, but at least help us with the economy. Don't forget about us small town, blue collar, hardworking folks. By the way, there are hardworking folks all over the country, not just in small towns. Focus on sustainable change. Remember the average American. And these are 10 of Trump's Gen Z voters discussing his second term. So these are people who voted for Trump as Gen Z voters. Neil, what do you think of that? It's kind of interesting, huh?
No, I always appreciate getting that kind of. The New York Times does this kind of thing where they look at voters from various groups and whether they're undecided or supporters of Trump, and kind of a where are they now, what are they thinking now type of thing, and that's always good to give that kind of update. I want to go back, Sri, to the article about the UK Prime Minister, the
Yes.
King of the North. Just a little bit of a background. He actually earned that nickname during COVID when he was arguing, fiercely criticizing the national government's COVID restrictions and lockdown, and how it was impacting cities in the north of England. He was a mayor of Greater Manchester, so he's earned that nickname. It goes back several years, but
And of course,
I'm a little
still with the of course, it has connected to Game of Thrones.
It's a Game of
Yeah.
Thrones
Yeah.
inspired nickname,
Sure.
of course.
Yeah.
But it gives me a little concern in terms of that's what his perspective was in terms of criticizing some of the policies
Lockdown.
during COVID.
Yeah. The world must wake up to the horror in Sudan. This is, this tells you how important this is, how they're signaling this is important, Neil. By look at the entire page basically is this one editorial. The longer fighting drags on, the greater the chance that regional instability will spread. And then I have not seen this, but A Little House for Our Era, a welcome reboot of a classic story revisits the myth of the American West. That's interesting because I've been complaining about so many of these reboots, but this seems like this is really welcome. And then the lo-fi.
We watched it, Sri.
Oh,
Actually,
is it good?
Pam and I have been watching it. I will say that I grew up watching Little House on the Prairie, the Michael Landon version, and I always thought he would always be Pa as far as I was concerned. But we watched the first season, which dropped, and one of the things that's important is that they actually bring in some of the missing elements. The books, the books that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote, actually, were of that period. Were full of racist and very questionable language around Native Americans, around blacks, etc. And this show actually starts off with, the basic premise, I'm not giving anything away, is that they moved to a land in Kansas that they think is open for settlement when it actually wasn't. It was the land of the Osage people, and they actually show people living on that land and show the negotiations to offer them pennies on the dollar for their land and to move them to reservations, land that was not as good for their culture, for hunting buffalo, etc. So it does bring that into the story, which is appreciated.
Yeah, that's so good to know. Thank you, Neil. The lo-fi way I broke my social media addiction. I designated a single chair where I could sit and scroll. It saved me from my phone. That's a pretty good idea, Neil. What do you think about that? Sitting on one chair and scrolling. Rupa says it was such a path-breaking program, so that sounds great.
Yeah, I think she's talking about the show.
Yeah.
And also, my mom, Sudha Parekh, says she agrees. So that's always appreciated. Folks, if you're watching, a couple of notes. If you're watching on Facebook, please remember to press play on the video so that you can comment on the show. If you're commenting on a post, we may not actually see your comment in the studio. We may not be able to respond. And as Sri mentioned, we do this show every Sunday. We review the print edition of the New York Times and talk about the news of the day, engaging with our viewers. So if you have questions, comments, things that you want to talk about, as long as you keep it respectful, we will be happy to engage in that conversation.
And here is something you should all do. Neil sends out a note once a week or so, not more than that, certainly, when there's a show, and you can hear what are the topics we're going to cover, any guests we have, and any special exclusive access to PDFs from the New York Times that he is able to get from our friends at the time. So please sign up for that by writing to him, and he's at Neil@digimentors.group, Neil@digimentors.group, and you get things like this: the finals preview PDF, the full parade coverage PDF, the Knicks special. So that's just one example of how you can get those. Check out digimentors.group, look for the New York Times read along section, and then you can also use this tiny URL. Look at this: 6 sentences that have shaped American history. This is also a tiny URL that you can get. Again, find all of these in our archives. Just go one by one and you'll find them there. And it's just so cool. So write to Neil. Another reason to write to Neil and to me is if you'd like to sponsor the show. We are so grateful to our friends at Muck and the Graphic History Company for supporting us for so many years. And we'd love to promote your event, your book launch, your movie premiere, all of that we would love to publicize. So please write to Neil and to me. And here's something that I'm involved with. JLF stands for the Jaipur Literature Festival, the city in India that started with a 200-person festival 20 years ago, now has 500,000 people come. Tina Brown called it the greatest literary show on earth, and Oprah went there and loved it. And now they have JLF USA for the last 10 years, and we've added 2 new cities for the US. We have LA, and we also have Toronto, so it's 6 cities in the US and 1 in Canada, all in a 3-week period. You absolutely don't want to miss this. There's so much cool stuff. So jlflitfest.org. We're in North Carolina, Los Angeles, Seattle, Colorado, New York, and Houston. And some of the most famous writers in the world are going to be there. About 30 to 40 to 60%, depending on the city, are of South Asian origin, but everyone else is international journalists, a lot of local speakers, local authors. But it's not just books, it's movies, it's music, food, all of that being celebrated. So check out JLF USA. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help connect you with that. So it's more than a lit fest. We want you to check that out when you can. So thank you very much, everyone.
And here's the website for JLF Lit Fest. It's returning to the US this year in 2026. And when you go to the site, you can scroll down and see the information about JLF USA, the different cities that I just showed with links to each city. So for example, if you click through, you can see the information about New York and then see highlights from the previous year. 134 speakers,
Yeah.
42,000 in-person attendees, 13 venues, 69 sessions, a digital reach of 6.26 million.
Yeah.
Very
Amazing.
impressive.
Amazing work. Ken says, congratulations, you two, on episode 400 milestone. Thank you so much. And Gianni is watching. Gianni's from Italy, our dear friend, and he's predicting that Argentina will beat Spain. Of course, a lot of people in Argentina are of Italian origin, including Messi, as you can tell from his name, and Pope Francis, also Italian origin, but from Argentina. So I'm not surprised Gianni is voting for Argentina, hoping Argentina wins. But everyone, tell us who's going to win, Argentina or Spain. Another way to do this is, who do you think will win, or who do you think should win? I'm saying it'll be Spain, and I'm cheering for Spain. But if Messi's magic, it's amazing if he can do that at 39. That's incredible that he's doing that.
I think, Sri, first of all, I think I'm going to be leaning toward Argentina for this match. I don't have a big dog in this fight, but I mean, if Pope Francis can give some support from heaven for Argentina, I mean, how could they lose? I mean, what more could you ask for than to have some papal support from the other side, if you will?
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I will say, for my Italian friends, it's so sad that Italy has missed 3 World Cups in a row. This is a world power that has won multiple titles and wins all the time in Europe, but to be out of the World Cup tells you there's something wrong with the state of Italian football. The Semi-Charmed Life of Gracie Abrams is the cover of Arts and Leisure, and the real estate section, Neil, is entirely about first-time home buyers. And navigating the bumpy road to home ownership is hard for those who have never done it before. It may be both better and worse than expected. I think that's this should be an episode or an issue that we get the PDF for, so that people can get that. I'm sure it's available online, not as a PDF, but in a digital format. The Metropolitan cover is paramedics face their own plight. some emergency workers make just $18 an hour, putting financial strain on those trying to afford to live in New York. So that tells you something about the state of that. Brooklyn is choosing housing over flood protection, weighing a planned apartment building against the need of climate change defenses. And finally, the New York Times Magazine cover is The Unknown World Inside Your Gut. And this is really interesting. The microbes in our bodies may hold the secrets to human health. Scientists are just beginning to understand them. And yesterday we had a salon with Priyamvada Natarajan, chair of the Yale Astronomy Department, and one of the Time 100 most influential people in the world. And she talked about this, that the world in your gut might also be part of your intelligence, that your intelligence isn't just confined to your brain, it's maybe other parts of the body. There's new research on this, and that the gut is doing so much, and we're learning about the gut and how you take care of it. Here's Mary C. Curtis saying, I am cheering for Cape Verde. So that's great. We all think they did so well and deserved all the great attention that they got. Homage due to Pele. Edson Arantes Nascimento, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the name, better known by his nickname Pele, was a Brazilian professional footballer who played as a forward, widely regarded as one of the greatest players in history. He was among the most successful and popular sports athletes of the 20th century. And our friend Bobby Ghosh interviewed Pele, Messi, Neymar, and put Messi and Neymar on the cover of Time magazine long before they would otherwise have been there. And you'll hear his interactions with those three giants of soccer, of global football in my newsletter today. So please sign up srinet.substack.com, srinet.substack.com, so that you can get that newsletter as soon as I send it in a couple of hours. Neil, we're wrapping up the show. Another great episode, so much to discuss. And I love that interaction with people who disagree with us. What we remember Tip O'Neill, a famous American politician, said, who, by the way, would meet on a regular basis with Ronald Reagan, and they would debate things, but they had a civil interaction most of the time. He said, you are entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And I think that's something we should all keep in mind.
Absolutely, Sri. The other quote that I think that we should remember, particularly appropriate. I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it, with some limits, right? If you ad hominem attacks are not appropriate, but if you want to have a civil discourse and express a different opinion, as long as we have the same facts, absolutely, without question, we should have that conversation.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Here's Chachachi saying, great show as usual. Check out her show, folks. And Martin says, thank you both for such an informative broadcast from true journalists. That means so much. And Martin and I have connected over his connection to Dr. Ruth and to our friend Bill Ritter, who we have talked about a lot on this show. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Please sign up for Neil's updates. Just write to Neil at digimentors.group. And if you'd like to sponsor us, in addition to our friends at Muck and the Graphic History Company, hope you'll join us. And thank you, everyone. We'll be doing a special show of Neil's terrific program. It's called Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Episode 52, Art, Hope, and Ending the Shame Around Mental Health. Vasu Tolia, doctor and artist. Neil, tell us more.
So this is an episode that we aired on July 9th, 10 days ago. I co-host a show on mental health twice a month, and you can find the link to this show on my website, and I'll share with you. But Sri, we're doing a special episode this Thursday to bring back Vasu Tolia's thoughts. we had some technical issues with the show last week, and my co-host Dawn was not able to join the conversation. So what we're going to do is we're going to show excerpts from the previous show and then let Dawn comment on it. So I will be sending out a link to that show. And, we have covered a range of different issues. The whole idea is to lower the stigma around mental health, that we should talk about this as men of South Asian origin, as humans on this planet. Anxiety, depression, and even more debilitating mental health issues affect so many of us, but so many of us are afraid to talk about it because of what people might think. And we're hoping to address that and lower that stigma.
Well, thank you. And you do that every day. We're so grateful to you. Ellen says it's important to keep friends who disagree to know the other side. And Sunny says, thank you both. Excellent as always. Ellen, thank you for watching. Goodbye, everybody. We'll be back next Sunday for the New York Times read along. See you then. Bye,
Absolutely.
everybody.
And if you joined us late, as a reminder, you can find this show on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube from the very beginning, right after we finish up the show.
And tag a friend. They can watch us now or later. So please tag Fire Department Coffee and you. Perfect Sunday morning routine. We absolutely love that. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for saying that. We appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.